Hey, are you sick of doing the laundry but feel like you always have to do it because you're the woman? Me too. Are you pretty annoyed that you always have to find the one who cares for your child because you're a woman? Me too. Today, we are talking about gender roles, and it is gonna be spicy. Stick around on the Brave Talk Show.
Hey, brave girl, how you do the things that you do? Don't mind.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Brave Talk Show, the show for brave women craving the connection that comes with real conversations about the concerns and TMI details we face every day.
We're your hosts. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Lori.
I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Brittany.
Be sure to subscribe to join our weekly conversations.
Today we are talking about gender roles. Right? I am excited. And it's going to be spicy, like Robyn said. But first, we are going to do a 2 cents and 2 minutes on hot topic that a viewer have asked our thoughts on. Are you guys ready?
Who's the hot topic today? What's the
guys
hot
ready?
topic today?
Hot topic is Miss Lori.
You have a new face in the house.
Welcome to the Brave Talk Show.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. I mean, I won, you guys. I'm here. Woo!
We had a contest for who wanted to be a co-host for the day. Lori's the
winner, right here.
Chicken dinner.
It was so exciting. But this was the thing. I posted that I wanted to go on, and I asked the Brave Talk Show, probably you, Brittany, when are you going to announce? And she said a certain day. Well, that day came and gone. I was like, Scott, maybe it's not me. Like my husband, like we keep looking. Next day, not a word. Next day, not a word. I reach out, I'm like, when are you going to announce who the winner is?
That was
I'm like,
me.
fingers crossed.
And I was like, the next
and they're
day.
like, tomorrow. I'm like, okay. And so then I get on my phone and I'm like, like we were in bed. Like I woke up, yeah. So it was awesome.
We just
So
wanted
cool.
to play with your emotions.
Yeah. We wanted you emotional, vulnerable to come on set.
I feel
we
like
just
it'd be such a-
procrastinators?
Yeah, it'd be such a good, it would be so fun to be with you guys. So thank you so much for having me.
You are just
Thank you for being
so fun.
for
Thanks
always
for
watching.
being here.
Love it, love it.
Tell us more about you, Lori.
Okay, so just a little bit about me. I have 8 sons. So from 6 years old to 21, I know everyone's like, it's exactly what you guys think. It is loud, it's smelly, it's wild, it's crazy, it's jumping off the walls. I have nothing nice, I have nothing new. So actually my bathroom is the only thing that's mine. So it's painted bright yellow, has pink everywhere, and no one is allowed, not even my husband, bless him, no one is allowed to use it. They come in every once in a while and look in the mirror, but no one, toilet, shower.
But I love that.
actually.
I love that
You
it's
are
your own
setting
space.
boundaries.
Mine. Yes,
I love
it's
that.
my area. I love it, right?
I
It's so
love
fun.
that.
So fun. So, yeah, it's great. I
So
love it.
in a home full of boys, how do you survive?
Oh
like,
my
how
gosh.
do you make it?
Yeah.
Great question. How do I survive? No, I'm just kidding. I feel like I have
a lot.
tons of energy. So I'm very active. I'm a great boy mom because they're into sports. They're so, I'm very loud. They can hear me at every game and practice. So I feel like I'm a great mom to all these boys because I have just as much energy and a lot of times more energy than them. I'm like, let's go on a hike. Let's go do this activity. And they're like, not again, Mom. Like, no.
I love that.
So we created this awesome summer bucket list. So it has over 250 things in the state of Utah that every region, so anywhere in Utah is so rad.
the
It has
best.
so
It
many fun
is.
places to visit. So my husband made it on an interactive map on your phone. So people that have gotten it can be whatever. They could be in Park City or
I'm
in
gonna get
Bountiful
it.
or St. George. What else is here? Oh, there's a splash pad, a fishing pond, a park, a trail, a biking. It has every activity for because I have so many kids, we have so many
need
interests
it.
and so many different levels. So
Oh
we
my
still go to the
gosh.
splash pad, but then we still go do a big awesome thing for
What's
the
the app
big
name?
kids.
What is it?
Well, it's not an app. It's through. So my website is Lori's Bucket List. So you can sign up through there to get it.
love that.
And then I send out weekly emails of all these fun places in Utah to just go and
That's
explore and have
amazing.
fun.
We didn't even know that when we picked her.
I know.
You
Oh,
did it.
oh,
I
yes.
know. That's what's like surprise.
Lori's got a bucket list, and we all need
Yeah,
it.
and you need it, and I will.
So
Yes,
fun.
I will get it for you. But it's been fun. I wanted to make the theme. It's not hard to be a fun mom because a lot of times it's like there's so many things to do. Well, what should we do? I don't know. I've made it so easy. You just open up, like if you have younger kids or you want to go swimming, like you just find the pool or the small hike to a waterfall or whatever your interest of your family is. We cover everything. So it's a lot of fun. So yeah, it's fun. Yes.
Lori, I can already feel your energy, and I hope
Yes.
it translates out of these cameras because she is a ray of
You're the
sunshine.
bomb. You're
We're
awesome.
so grateful that you're here.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, ladies, it's time. Are we ready? Are we ready to talk about gender roles? This is a hot
I know you
topic.
are.
Oh, I am. You
I'm so
all
excited.
know I'm passionate about this
I'm excited
subject.
to see. What you
Okay,
got?
so I was getting myself all revved up on the drive over here. I had my earpods in and I'm listening to podcasts about gender roles just to get me fired up and in the mood. See, here's this interesting thing about gender roles. When I looked it up on Apple Podcasts, I typed in gender roles. All of the podcasts, there were a lot, there were dozens of them. They were all either men or African Americans. No white women talking about gender roles.
Not one.
Not one. Why? Like maybe that's just Apple Podcasts, but is that a thing? Like why?
Or is that like kind of a reflection of gender roles that
It's a
women
man
don't speak up,
don't speak on it.
women
It's like,
don't
yes, I feel like
come
it's-
on here and teach us about
But I would think it's
roles.
vice versa because men doesn't really talk about roles like their
Yeah, I was
roles.
surprised there's
so I'm
men's-
surprised that it's men
Right?
because when I think of gender roles, any topic that I've seen, vice versa, even on TikTok, it's women talking about their roles in the home. I've never really seen. So I think maybe it's different. It depends on the platform that you're using because I've always seen the woman being like, you know, kind of the big thing. So
Yeah.
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 That's really interesting.
Isn't that
That's
fascinating
interesting.
though?
That's
Yeah, it's
interesting.
Anyway, that was just
I
for
don't know
my
what the
drive here.
statistic of that is
Yeah.
to look it up to see who. But I would think it's us women because we're like, I'm done with this thing. You know?
It's changed a lot. Like if you think about our grandma's time and the roles that they were expected to, like just I remember I've watched some videos and then I remember talking to my grandma like you put lipstick on before you went to bed. And there were even some women who got up half an
Sorry,
hour
what?
before their
Hard pass.
husbands
I've heard
so that they would get ready and so that when their
No.
husbands would wake up,
Really?
they were always presentable. Like
That is so messed
Perfectly
up and
made
flawed
up.
in every single possible way.
But you know, but this is the thing though that I think I love that you see it's based on a time period. I think what we have to understand is like time is changing and some stuff are changing. So back in the day, it fit those people. Like you know what I mean? It worked and some people were against it and some people follow. And then I think now it's like, what is the gender roles? Like what is you know what I mean? People are like don't want it or they're done with it or
But I
so
can
think it
only
fit
imagine
eras.
so many of those women putting on their lipsticks before they go to bed or waking up early didn't love it. But there was no education or there was no brave women speaking out saying, absolutely not. There was no woman going to work. You stayed home and cleaned. There was no women, like I've had comments said to me as a working mom, but I've also had comments said to Johnny that really ticked me off like, oh, you do the dishes? How lucky is she? I'm like, what? And it's like things are changing, and it's just our what is our society? Oh my gosh, I can't say that word.
Yeah.
Society like going to accept
like.
as normal anymore, and it's like totally shifting, right? Like my grandma would probably roll over in her grave to know that I am not home 24/7 and I'm not cooking every single meal. Like she probably would tell me like your husband should never have to lift a finger, and I'd be like, you're crazy, you
I
know?
feel like it shouldn't be determined by society. This is where I'm a little different in the whole gender role thing. I feel like, and I see it on the social media all the time, like when I get married, I want my wife to do this, my husband to do this. It's like this list. But I'm just like, you need to sit down and talk to that person before you get married, first of all. If that's really important to you in your marriage, then that's a conversation you and your partner need to have and see what you're willing to give in or not give in. Because I'm not going to marry somebody and then we get married and you're like, you need to stay home. You need to da da da.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
just like, that is not,
But
it's
I think
what is
things
in the
can
home.
change because when me and Johnny first got married, like we sat down and I remember like having a list of like, what do you expect? La, la, la. And I was like, I am going to be the stay-at-home mom. Like that is what I wanted.
Yeah.
So when I first, I quit my job, I stayed at home and then things started changing for me. I didn't feel fulfilled anymore. And I started, wanting to do all these other things. And that's been a cause of friction in our marriage because I think Johnny honestly did go into the marriage thinking that I would be the stay-at-home wife. I'd cook and clean every
Dinner
meal.
every time.
And now I'm asking him to step up to the plate and join me in some of these tasks because I am also working. Yeah. And we have had issues. Like there have been times and conversations where he does feel like my work is less important. Mm-hmm. And there have been conversations that well, some of your work you don't get paid for, so mine is more important. And I
Yep.
will not stand by that.
Yeah,
And
I
and
agree.
so it's caused friction. We're in
Yep.
therapy, you know, and he has a lot of cultural things he needs to break down too, because he was raised very, very, very traditionally, and so he has felt pressure, I think, from family and friends around him, because our marriage does look quite differently than when it started to when it's now. But even just in general, like a lot of our original friends that we started as being young married, we actually aren't friends with anymore, because it's
Ruffled
but
feathers.
yeah,
But,
but
you
like
also
now,
argue on a different level.
yeah. But
Yeah.
now,
Grown.
like we were talking about this the other day, like we are now surrounded by people who are similar
you.
to us. So like a lot of
Yes.
our couples we hang out with, they have a mom who works also, either
Yep.
full-time or part-time, entrepreneurship. Like we have more in common. So you find those people who get you.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of times where people have said things to us that really offended me or Johnny, or like put Johnny down, like literally like family members in the family frown, like this saying is said a lot, and it pisses me off. Like, Robyn just has your balls wrapped around a chain. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
I'm like, what? No, actually, like, it's totally fine for Johnny to help cook dinner.
They're
And-
his children to watch. They're not
Yeah.
babysitting. It's
Yeah.
his dishes
Yeah.
too. Like, yeah.
So we've worked through that, and I
Wow.
think that comes a lot from maybe our culture and how we're raised.
For sure.
But it definitely, we had that conversation, and then it changed, and it's been a very sore spot.
But I
our
think in the
marriage.
culture of Utah where we live, it was back a while ago when you were a young woman, go back to that time, you were getting prepared to marry to be a wife.
Yeah.
Like you were never prepared to be like a working, like you know what I
Right,
mean, to
it's
go in
very
the work
true.
field. You were never, even sometime if you didn't go to college, that was okay, because your role as a woman was to be a wife to somebody, and
Right.
meaning, and that entails cooking, cleaning, and like you said, then a lot of us went into that
Yeah.
thinking that's what we're gonna do.
100%.
But then now
yeah.
you're living in a world where it's just like, oh no, you cannot rely on just even two incomes. Sometimes it's hard on a marriage. Like, you
Yeah.
know, like you need more to help take care of all those kids, you know?
Yeah.
So I think there was a shame. There's still people that shame you for working. But I remember before I got married, I was like, yeah, I'm a working, like I want to be home when my kids are little and raise them until they go to school. Like I want to be present. But like, I know that I want to be like working. I want to go to
Yeah.
work. It's not because of the money. It's just because like I want to find my own like sanity. Like I have my
Yeah.
own
Fulfillment.
identity. I have a person, and not just like I'm a wife, I'm a mom, but I'm also still
Yeah.
Vanessa.
Well, you hit on a good point when you said, you know, some people need more than two incomes. My husband's income is sufficient for my family
Us
and our
too,
needs.
but-
But I didn't go back to the work field because of the
money.
income.
That's
I
me
needed
too.
an out. I knew that I had talents and a burning passion inside of me that I could bless
Yeah.
other people. And they have turned into careers that obviously bless our family financially. But I feel like there's a ton of women who feel trapped in their own home because they don't have a reason necessarily to leave
Yeah.
for finances. Like their financial status is comfortable,
fine.
but they need something more
Yeah.
than motherhood. And then there is definitely people who feel opposite. They have no choice. They have to work, and they long nothing more than to be at home.
Right.
So there's
Yeah.
that side too.
I
Yep.
agree. Because that's me too. It wasn't financial. It was more like, give me out. Like, and I
Yeah.
feel fulfilling.
Yeah.
The fact that I had my own thing, I can go in and I get home. It's like, oh, my kids, I want to take home. Because I remember when I wasn't working and I was home cooking, cleaning dinner, like all this stuff, like I didn't mind it, but I feel like there was something missing. Like I was just like, and you feel guilty because we think about mom guilt. Like, oh man, like I love my kids, but why do I feel like I need to, you know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
And so I was just like, I need to go. I have so much to offer, and I know I want to help people. I'm gonna do that. And my kids, like, it makes me happy because, like, the other day, Yahoo sent me a Marco Polo, and Nehemiah said, "They're like, where do you want to be when you're older?" And this is my little 4-year-old, and he said, "I want to be just like mom. I want to help kids, just like mom helped kids."
That's
And
awesome.
that just broke my heart because it's just like, oh, like he's not seeing it as a bad thing that mom is out there helping people.
Yeah.
That's
you know,
awesome. So I was raised with a single parent and then an older brother, and we lived with my mom's mom. So I saw two mom roles
Okay.
do everything. Like literally, can I say ASS on here? They were literally bad A's.
Yeah.
Like, so they did the dishes and the laundry and then they went to work full time. So I learned you want to do something, you work, like you get it done, you know. So early on when Scott and I got married, you know, we're in Santa Barbara and I'm like, Mom, I need to ask Scott about this. And she's like, why? And I'm like, well, not because like I need his permission. Like I feel like just to give him that respect, and I want to make that, something that we could decide together. But it was shocking for her not having that husband or father role at all. You know, how that it was so different for my husband and I. But with now having kids, 8 sons, I focus on 2 things. One, to help them with the chivalry. Like, you open the door, you say please and thank you.
Yeah.
You do all these things for women or men or for whoever, but you definitely treat women a little bit higher standard. But then 2, when you're an adult, what I want you to do is something that you're going to be successful in helping society. So if that's staying at home and watching your kids, or if it's being a CFO at a company, whatever that is, I just want you to be a positive influence in society, whatever that means. So yeah, we're not like, you're going to be the breadwinner. Like, that's great. If they want to be a doctor or whatever, awesome. But if that role goes to his wife and he wants to stay home, awesome. Raising our future children, that's awesome. So it's just...
I love that you give your kids that permission.
Yes.
I can guarantee you my husband was never taught that it was okay to be a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah. Well, and I also think I'm okay with that because I had a single parent and realized I can do anything I want by myself. Like, whatever I want to get done, I have to do it, and it's work, and I can get it done. But I still have to do the dishes and clean. So at my house, which is funny, I have not cleaned the bathrooms, done the dishes, or the laundry. I don't know how many years, you guys.
Whoa,
Older children.
This mom,
So one
gets
kid
better.
does
like,
all the laundry.
you're living my
One
dream.
kid does all the bathrooms. One kid does all the dishes. One kid
Wow.
wipes all the counter, sweeps the floor. Every once in a while, I'll help him do whatever. There's always little stuff I have to do.
Yeah.
But they know how to clean, and they know how to do all the mom chores.
And that's
the
what
wife chores.
That's amazing.
For sure,
Like
yes.
laundry, like at first in the beginning, I would do your house's laundry, but now he does his own laundry.
Yeah.
And and then he does.
It makes such a difference.
Yes.
You're like,
And he does
all
the
that
dishes.
pressure, like, oh, I can like be me, or have a part-time
Yes.
job, or just go hang out with girlfriends,
He
or
does-
whatever it is.
And he does bedtime more than I do.
Oh,
and I'm
so
like,
nice.
this time I'm like, oh, they're in bed. Cool. Like, you know what I mean? He
Yes.
does more.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's like, what? Like, your husband clean? I'm like, he better.
Yeah.
Like, he lives in
It's-
this dang
it's not a
house.
choice.
Like,
It's
are
not-
you like,
yeah.
Well, and I kind of feel like that's what bugs me about society is like if you start the transition into having more equality in your gender roles, like people like are like, I can't. Like either they frown upon it or like, how? I'm like, how is this not just normal? We need to stop teaching our kids that you're a girl,
Absolutely.
you're a boy, so you do ABC and you do DEF. Like you can do a little bit of everything. What
Yeah.
are your strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah. And what do
It's
you want to
definitely
do?
taught.
Yeah.
Like my husband, so as a working mom, we've had the conversation many times, and like the running inside joke is like, I'm working to retire Johnny because I just want him home.
Yeah.
Like, because he just works so much, and I'm like, I'm doing all this, so you'll just stay home, you know? But like Johnny actually would be a fabulous stay-at-home dad. Like when he's with our kids, he gets crap done, the kids get fed, and I've had serious conversation. I'm like, would you ever consider like staying home and being the dad? Because I would love
That's so funny.
do that.
We have that too. I'm
And-
like, let me get my master's. I get
Yeah.
my master's, and then you can just do your speaking and
Totally,
acting.
yeah.
You
Or
don't
even
need
just like part-time,
Yeah,
you know?
you
Like,
don't
let's
do
do half
9 to
and half. And
5.
he's like, no. Like, and I think, and
Your
I've
house
like
is all
sat him
for
down,
it.
like, be vulnerable. Like, what would keep you from not doing it? And he's
Yeah.
like, well, people would think of me, my
Yeah,
family.
no, they
I
would.
would feel like I, didn't provide for my family. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's more important? So I had this like conversation with Johnny, and I was like, listen to this. I'm like, anytime we go to family dinner at your family's, what are some of the things that your dad or other men start to talk about and they ask you about? And I like replied, I'm like, usually they say, how's work? How much money did you make?
Yeah.
How are you successful? And I'm like, how cool would it be if next time at Sunday, when they're going around asking how everyone's checked off this list, and I said, do you know what? Did you know that Johnny actually washed all the dishes this week and cared for our kids and read them books? And like, what a success that was.
That was so much
But
better.
like, no one would ever.
No one
ask
would
him
ever say that.
No,
No,
because
Pansy.
success is determined by
That's
how
the
much
word.
money you make, how
Yeah, so
successful you are at
true.
work, how you provide for your family. And I told Johnny, I'm like, but there are so many other things that are more important to me that never get talked about. And like, that's why we're trying to shift the roles in my family,
Yeah.
because like Johnny never gets praise from his family or friends that he's emotionally caring for his children.
Yeah.
He gets praised that he's financially caring
Well,
for
then
his
the flip
children.
side of that, in your conversations with the women, do they
Yeah.
ask you how's work? How much
No.
money did you make?
No,
it's all about the kids.
They ask me how the kids, and I mean, I could have made $1 million that week, and they would have no idea. But they want to know how my toothbrushing routine's going with the children at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I
and
just
that's what I'm
hate the
grateful for
gender
your
roles.
host's family. It's kind of like different in that, like the dads are very hands-on with his brothers, like the 3 that are married and have kids. They're very hands-on. So when we get on there, it's really like, Vanessa, how's work going? It's like, you know, and then Yahosh, like, they're like, you always compliment him, like, Yahosh is such a hands-on dad. And I'm grateful to have a partner that's like, like when we talk about the stay-at-home dad thing, he's like, I'll do it. Like, he
That's
has no
awesome.
problem. Like, he's like,
Yeah.
I'll do it. Like, I love being with the kid. But then he's like, then when he stay a few days with them, he's like, how do you do it?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard.
My husband would not do it. He says multiple times, he was like, I could never be a stay-at-home dad. Like, our kids would be so emotionally unstable if I was the stay-at-home dad. Like, yeah. And I like, for me, Get Out There Girl has been a huge window for me to see the opportunities in our parenting roles, because for so many years I was like, I can't leave. I know what's best. I was very controlling, like it'll get done my way if I'm home. And so for me to create a business where I actually leave,
have to leave,
and then
yeah.
I have to relinquish that control, and I'm like, whoa, Ben does a great job. Like
He's capable.
there are
Yeah.
things that I have to let go. Like I usually come home to a messy house, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But like the kids survive. They have fun time. They have a fun time with Dad. Like he's very capable. And if I wouldn't ever have left, I would have never given him that opportunity to succeed at that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so like it's really good. But I feel like I have a hard time with this because I really feel like there's a part of me that's a feminist and like gets all riled up and excited.
I've been waiting for you.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for you. Because I see you making the dinners. I see you get cleaning.
know.
So I've been waiting for you to go
I know,
in.
and that's the hard thing is that we are very traditional where Benton does make the money. And our whole marriage, I've always had some way to make a little side income where I can have some spending money or some money that I like feel guilt-free about. But I've never like really contributed to the income, right? He's the breadwinner and I'm the stay-at-home mom, and very traditional as far as like he comes home and he takes it easy. Like there was a mental like decision when we lived back in Virginia where I decided I want to be the wife to take care of him. He works hard all day and then comes home, and I want to be the type of wife that makes home this welcoming place where he gets excited to come home to. He gets to relax. I take care of things, kind of treat him like a king, thank him for all that he does. Like I made that as a goal. Like I wanted to do that. And so I put a lot of effort into
Before
that.
you move on, was that something that was taught? Or was that something like, where did that come from?
No, I was just having a conversation with a bunch of girlfriends, and a couple of them were sharing their different perspectives, and I started getting curious about what I really wanted to do, and I was like, I really want to be that wife. Like that was a decision that I made. I wanted to do. I didn't feel pressured to do it, and so that's the way I've been for 14 years. But now I'm getting to the point where I'm super busy, and I'm like drowning in a lot of things that I'm like, dang it, I took care of him too well. Like. Now I'm like, okay, can you help me? And actually, this is a sad story. So we had my parents over for some like birthday celebration, or maybe it was just a Sunday dinner. But my dad got up and was doing the dishes, and my 10-year-old son was like, Papa, why are you doing the dishes? Like, that's what Mom and Nana do. And I was like, oh, I failed. Like, that's exactly what I don't want. Like, I really don't want my sons to grow up and to think that's their wife's job. And I don't want my girls to grow up and think that that's their job.
They have to, right?
And so I realized, like, I need to figure it out. But it's still a rough transition for Benton and I, because Benton doesn't clean, and he will not clean. He's told me very clearly, like, you hire it. If you don't want to do it, I'm not going to ask that of you. But don't ask me to do it. Like, you can hire it out.
Wow.
And so that's, like, it's still really tumultuous for us. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm still finding.
You're kind of trying to figure out.
I'm
where
But
still
you
the
land.
part that I love that you say is, it's like you did choose, like, in the beginning, like, I'm going to take care of my husband. Like, and I feel like we have to be, it's okay if you want to be that stay-at-home wife, and that's what you want to do. There is nothing wrong with that.
Which I love. Like, I love every day at 5:30, dinner's on the table, you guys. Bless you.
Wow.
Every day at 5:30. Like, legit, at at 4:30, I stop everything I'm doing and I start cooking dinner.
That's impressive.
Do you feel like you
and
thrive
I
in
love
that?
Yeah,
You
I
thrive
do.
in-
Okay.
And
Like,
that's,
do
we
you ever
have
hold
family dinner
resentment?
together No.
Okay.
But I
That's
do
awesome.
hold resentment about cleaning up afterwards. Like,
I want 100% think if you're dropping your shiz at 4:30 for home cooked meal, homeboy's cleaning up dinner.
see, but and that's not how it is in our marriage. And so,
So
that's why I'm like,
And I
figured
think
out.
that's where we need to, where the gender roles then start getting messy, because it's just like, if I choose to do something and I want to do it because I want to make my family happy, great. But when I'm starting to be drowning
Yeah.
and doing everything else, and then
Yeah.
you don't want to help me, then that's where there's a problem. It's like, you know what I mean? Like,
but here's
help.
the thing: is he doesn't expect that of me. Like he doesn't.
But he will if you stop.
Yeah, I was
if you
gonna say,
stop
if you
cooking
stop-
at 4:30 every day, his expectations will not be met.
because that's what
Because
you've
you've met
always
those.
been. You've
Yeah.
always
Could you
met it.
imagine what happens?
He claims that he would just hire somebody.
Okay, then you stop. Let's do it. Starting today.
We talk about this in the car,
Yeah.
remember? If you just stop doing it, what would happen?
Yeah, starting
about it
today,
in the car.
Brittany.
life would stop.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying is you claim that, but like you have set the expectation and you have met it consistently over and over and over again. You no longer meet that expectation. There will be resentment that you're.
But
not
I
doing
like
that.
meeting that expectation. Like that's the thing is like a lot of it I love. Like I love being a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like I need anything outside of it. I don't need to go get a career to be fulfilled. I am very fulfilled at home. I'm very traditional.
Yeah.
And that's
How
okay.
old are your children?
12, 11, 7, and 4.
Well, why can't the 12 and 11-year-olds clean up after
They do.
dinner?
They do.
Okay.
They do a lot. They do a lot. And that's usually what my husband does. He's like, Allie, clean the dishes.
Do you feel like be totally vulnerable as much as I guess on a show that thousands of people are gonna watch? But like, do you feel like a little resentment that like he won't clean up?
For a long time, yeah. Like, and it was ugly between us for a long time. Like, that was a very sore subject. Like, it got to the point where I couldn't even complain about the house being dirty without it triggering him, because he was like, "I'm not helping."
Why?
Like, just because he hates it. Like, he grew up in a family where you had dish night, where you did tons of cleaning stuff, and he's like, "I don't want to do it anymore. Like, I'm done. We have enough money. Pay somebody to do
So
it."
it's kind of like this thing, like, when I grow up, I will not be cleaning. And so he's just not going to
I don't
clean.
know
So
if
do
he
you
had
think
it in
like
his
realistically though, if you were like, okay, I'm hiring someone from now on, Benton, to come and clean up our dinner,
He would love it.
You really think?
I really do. I really think, and that's the thing that like I appreciate about him is he never complains about dinner. Like if it's not ready at 5:30, he never gets mad about it. He's never like, "Oh, this dinner's not as good." Like he's so complimentary, and like he's a great cheerleader. So that's not the problem. And he would love if I hired. If I had a cleaner come every single day, he would love it.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you love it if he's like, I'm going to help you today. Like, I'm going to do it and
Oh, yeah,
help
I would
you.
jump his bones. Like I would absolutely
best thing
love
ever.
That's your
if
square.
he-
That's your square. Like,
That's her ball.
I would love it, and that's like when he does, I'm like, oh, that's so great. But for me, I've had to shift my attitude. Like, see, oh, he's so good with the kids. Like, I would rather do the dishes while he wrestles with the kids rather than him do the dishes while I put the kids to bed. Like, so there's just balances that I found. Like, I'm just not going to ask him to do the dishes anymore because I know that's not going to go anywhere. If I really am drowning, then I'll just hire somebody to come do the dang dishes. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I've just taken over this whole.
No.
I really think I love your perspective because it's different. You know, all our perspectives are going to be different. Like, you know, I feel like, you know, with Robyn, it's like, oh, all of us going to be different. And I think the thing, when I think of gender roles, we just want to make sure, like you said, this is something you love to do. This is something, but like when you feel like the expectation, it's like, I'm doing it because because I'm the mom,
true.
because I'm the wife, like that falls on me.
Yeah.
But we share this household, we share these children, but the expectation, and I think the biggest thing I think you said too that struck me is your son. Because then it's
Yeah.
kind of like the idea in his head, like, this is a woman's work.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
kind of like when you said like Benton doesn't like to, I thought about it. I'm like, do you know how much shit I do that I don't like to do it?
so
But like Benton lives in the house. Benton poops
But
on
then
the toilet.
I don't contribute. Here's the other factor of it though. Like I don't contribute financially. So like I don't feel like I can get all mad and upset that he's not contributing at home when
There it
I'm
is.
not doing it.
So you
I'm
need to
not
read this
contributing.
book called Fair Play.
Yeah,
So
yes.
I just finished this book called Fair Play.
You love it.
And it totally will rewire what you think, but it talks about how
Yeah.
that there is very, very damaging messages that Benton's time is worth more than yours because
That's-
it has
yeah.
a dollar sign behind it.
Because that's what you.
Your
it's a-
time is just as
Yeah.
valuable as any income that brings in because you're raising children, you're taking them to practice. Like Benton would not have a family
that
life
job.
without you.
No, I agree with that. Like
Yeah.
I totally. And one day when he like, because he's very successful in his career. Like one day I dream of him being like, he's in front of all this audience. Now I'm sharing my dreams with you guys.
I love it.
He's gonna get up in front of thousands of people and be like, this is all thanks to my beautiful wife, Brittany, because she made this possible for me to have a successful career and a beautiful family. And I'll be like, hell yes, I did.
Yeah, you did.
I think the thing is with that book, what you're gonna see,
but you have to change
you've
your
already
mind
do
around that.
because your mind
He
right now
makes
is
money
like he
and
makes
you
the
don't.
money, so because he financially take care of the family, my role as a wife is, you may not think it that way, but what it's looking like is like he makes the money financially.
Yeah.
So because he does that, my role as a wife is to clean, take care of the kids, have dinner ready. Even though you love it, but you've already taught yourself
still
that
have to.
You
Yeah.
still have to.
Yeah.
So you have to change that mindset of like, we are equal in this marriage. Like while you go to work and do this to provide for a family, that wouldn't be able to happen if all of a sudden you're like, I'm gone for 2 weeks. Like you plays a part, because we talk about this when we're like, how much do you think a mom stay at home will make? That's, you're attributing that to you as much as equal as he is. So you need to change that mindset of like, because it's financially responsible for us, I want to give my best to
Well,
this.
I think
to my
humans
family.
want to have like, so like I go to work and then the reward is, or like my efforts at work produce something that can tangibly be seen, money. My work at home produces something that can tangibly be recognized, food on the table, kids. But like the book teaches that like even just a woman's role in emotionally raising children is just as much or more
Taxing,
full-time,
yeah.
taxing
Than a
than
regular
making
job.
money.
Yep.
So like those responsibilities should be split when they get home.
Okay.
That-
Okay.
yeah.
That's the point that I was waiting for, because I
Yes.
totally believe that. Like I value myself and I value my role,
Yeah.
and that's why I want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I love it, is because I value it so highly.
Right.
And I see myself as his equal, right? Like I see that I couldn't do what I do without him.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do what he does without me. Like we
Yeah.
are a good partnership. But I think my thing, and you just answered that, is I think in my head I've been like, well, I don't contribute financially, and I don't go in and be like, hey, he doesn't come to me and like, you're not really helping
Right.
with
Financial,
financially,
yeah.
so can
Yeah.
you step
So you
up with
feel like
that?
you
And
can't
so I
do
feel
that
like
to
I'm like,
him.
no, like we're good. I like what I'm doing, and I'm just gonna get by. Like my
Yeah.
kids are getting older, and they're helping more, and so things change.
Yeah.
And now I have enough money that I can hire.
Have you
people.
ever had the conversation with him about gender roles within your home at all?
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple times where I've tried to be like, men and women are so different. Like he's never had to be worried about his life when he leaves a parking lot at night or when he goes running. Like you've never been worried about getting raped or attacked. Like
Yeah.
that's something that doesn't ever cross your mind, but it crosses my mind every single time I'm alone.
Right.
And then I told him all the time, like, when you have to go somewhere, like when you have an appointment or a meeting, you don't have to see what everybody's schedule is.
We just had this conversation. I feel like it just happened.
I have to figure out 6 people's schedules before I say yes to something, whereas he can just say yes.
Yeah.
And I resent that a little bit,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's very gender role-esque.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I agree, because
Yeah.
it's like, I feel like that. I feel like, okay, I can't just get up, like my husband can get up and in the morning, like this morning he was gone. I had no clue where he was.
Right.
But he went and played basketball at 6 a.m. this morning. And I feel like if I'm leaving at 6 a.m., I have to tell you where I'm going to be, what I'm doing, when I'm returning.
Make sure
And
what
what
the
the plan,
schedule
like
is.
the schedule
Yeah.
is, because I don't have the leisure to be like, oh, I'm just going to get up. Because I wake up, he probably would be like, where the heck are you? Like the
Yeah.
kids are up. And then he called me, he's like, hey, because he had the kids today, because he's not working. And I'm like, you have to come to a birthday party. And then I'm getting ready. It's like 8:30. I have Court about to come. And he's like, can you get the kids ready? I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? I have like 30 minutes, and I've already put their clothes out. You can do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because we have that responsibility in our mind that it is up to us. Think about it. You're going to divorce. You're not going to leave your child. Think of a woman. Like, and I told your host this. I'm like, if we're going to divorce, probably never going to happen. I'm like, what do you think people will think if I'm just like, you have the kids and I get visitation, right? What is society?
Right.
What would everybody look at you like?
Yeah.
Something's
You're
wrong
an
with you.
awful
You've
mom.
done something bad. Yeah.
You're an awful mom, because how can you give your kids to your husband? Like, but why can we have them 100% of the time and he gets visitation? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
So you
It's
guys
just-
really need to read the book Fair Play, and
I've read it.
and you
It's
can buy a
amazing.
stack of cards, and it has this lady spent 10 years, and she did these groups with thousands of women, and they have written down every task that a housewife would ever, like what it takes to run a household with kids and work. And she has these cards. They're like written out. They're so itemized. And what you do is there's this game. It's called Fair Play. The book is amazing, but then you can play this game with your partner. And you get out these cards and you decide, like, these don't fit with our family because we're not taking care of someone like our grandma who's dying. So you take out the ones that don't belong to your family. Yeah. And then you pick it up and you decide whose role it is. And so at the end of it, it's pretty eye-opening to see when I have 90 cards and my husband has 10. That's not fair play. You know? Wow. And so she talks about how that isn't fair play, and you go through and she teaches you how to become fair players, and she teaches you the dialogue to tell your husbands and the stats to back it up as to why this is not helping him teach his kids the correct thing, and this is not the way you should do it. And it is probably the best book I've ever read. Yeah, but one of the things she said is like, you'll have, she's like, men and husbands, like, they always think they're doing more than they really are. So she's like, your husband could say, yeah, well, yeah, I cook like once a week because Johnny will cook dinner. And then she like breaks it down. She's like, did Johnny realize and make the mental note that there was no more ketchup in the fridge that week? And when your toddler had his chicken nuts, he was going to freak out. No. So you made the grocery list. You planned all the meals. You went shopping. You got it all out. Then Johnny cooked it. That does not mean Johnny can take that card and say that was a fair play. Whoever's going to cook dinner.
Hate this game.
Yeah. She's like, whoever takes the card fair play, they do everything, and she lists it all out from start to finish. So me and Johnny, he's like, well, I cook dinner. I'm like, but do you do all these things? He's like, no. And so you switch.
Like, give me the card.
But you don't keep the cards. So you switch them. So in 2 weeks, Johnny gets that card, and Johnny will do inventory on the fridge, and Johnny will go grocery shopping, and Johnny will Instacart when the kids don't have food, and all the things. And same thing with laundry. So like I do most of the laundry. And Johnny's like, well, I do my load. I'm like, well, did you realize we're out of pods? Did you check all the clothes? And so like now my mind has so much more mental freedom because I know I am doing nothing with food this week.
Nice.
At all.
Yep.
And that's what they're saying is like your husbands can say, oh, I help, but they have not mentally removed any burden from you by just doing the final application of cooking the meal.
Wow.
And you still have all the steps leading up to that. Yeah. And so these cards are life-changing. And like Johnny, I'm like, I don't do anything in laundry. I'm not, if you're out of laundry soap, you're the laundry man.
I'm getting on Amazon right now. I need to order.
I know, when I read the book, when I read that book too, that's one thing that I kind of learned. It's just like, because some of the time I was like, I work for us and for our family, and like, and I come and I'm tired, and I'm like, I totally understand that. And we've set up boundaries where it's like when you get home, and I've learned this, like, and I think everybody should do it because I'm just like, I get it, like it's a taxing day. So he does this thing in the car where he takes like 10 minutes in the car to decompress and like get his, kind of that switch mode. And then when he comes in, it's like, okay, go get undressed, take that little 5 minutes that you need. So then when he walks in the door, I'm not like, you need to do this, you need to do this. It's kind of giving that mental. But what I read that book is kind of like the same thing. I was just like, that freedom, like we are always processing as wife, right? Yeah. Like we like, oh, the laundry needs to be done. Oh, but we need 1, 2, 3 to get done first before we can do that. Yep. And so the husband saying like, oh, I've done this too. It's like, okay, hold on. No. No. I still had to do all this to help you, and then you take the reward for that one thing.
Exactly. That's what she was saying. Is like the husbands are like, oh, well, look at all these cards, and it's like you did one of the 37 things. That's my card. Yeah. Like you don't get to say I cooked dinner.
It's like thank you for doing it. Thank you so much.
And they talked about like,
but now free me.
Husbands and wives like mine. Like women will never have like the unencumbered mind. Like she was talking about like she was in an airplane and like she works too. This lady who wrote the book, she's working on her laptop and lapping, and she's on the phone trying to get Comcast down on, down at her house. She's 25,000 feet in the air. And then she's doing all these things, and she looks over at the guy across, and he's on his laptop just focusing on his thing. He has no other care in the world. And just how that's not fair play, and that's not teaching our kids fair play. And she says you don't have to have equal amount of cards. So it's not like you're like 50-50. Like it depends on what your house looks like. Shift. So my husband doesn't come home till 9 o'clock at night. So obviously he can't do all these things. But if he's gonna say I'm in charge of, I can be in charge of this, then he's going to remove all the mental burden from those things, so I'm not still doing it, and he's taking all the credit. You know what I mean? So it is a turning point for us.
Well, I think everyone should.
Everyone should.
Sounds amazing. It's really so good. With my dynamic, my husband actually works out of state, so he flies twice a month to Arizona to work. So he works 5 or 6 days straight, and he's gone, gone. So when he gets back, the second he walks in, I'm like, peace out.
Yeah.
I usually make dinner because he sucks at cooking. But he's the one taking the kids to, school or field trips or, all the things. And it's like such a nice break. Like everyone's like worried, like, how is it that your husband, like, how's your marriage? I'm like, it's never been better.
Yeah.
Like, it's never been better in all aspects because we appreciate it when he comes home. We're like, Dad's here. And even me, I'm like, babe, I missed you. Like, we love, we just have him. And then he's gone. And then me and my kids do our thing. And then, he's in charge of
and it feels
all of that.
so good to know, because that's the thing too. With Yahoo, she's really good at with the kids, like taking them to do stuff.
Yeah.
And so when he comes, it's just like, I'm going to take the kids. And it's like, oh, thank good. You know what I mean? It's like that freedom of like, oh my gosh.
The burden
Yes,
comes off. You're like,
it's lifted,
I don't have to worry about that.
Well,
And lately I haven't
the
been
fair
able-
play goes all the way down to like even like thank you cards, and she like gave a example in the book that her husband's like, thank you cards, like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you wasting time on thank you cards? And she said, do you want our children, like, do you think it's important for me to write a thank you card to the kid or to our teacher who taught our kids all year? Like, do you think that's important? Yeah. And he's like, well, yeah, like, I would love to, like, show we want to teach our kids gratitude. And, and she's like, there's so many little things that you don't understand that I do. So if you don't want me to care about, like, giving gifts to teachers, because he's always like, why are you doing all this extra stuff? You're wasting your time. Like, that's not important. And she said, this is a good time to sit down and be like, is it important to you to model to our children gratitude? That's what she said. She's like, do you want me to model gratitude? Show people how to give gifts. Thank you for teaching my kids. And he's like, well, of course. Then she's like, then someone has to do the thank you cards. And so you keep telling me, what did you even do today? You didn't even do anything. She's like, I'm doing all these little things. And so it itemized it so clearly that the author was like, my husband had no idea what I did in a day.
And they don't.
There's
don't.
thousands and thousands
And
of
I
things.
think that's one point when you look at our social media too, is the idea of the men being like, even gender roles, like, what do you, like, I feel like a husband coming home and asking a wife what they did on a day, it's the most, like, offensive thing.
Yeah.
Like,
My husband would never ask that.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
feel like I've thrown Ben under the bus a little bit.
No,
with
no,
some
no.
of the things.
No, I don't
He
think
would never.
Yeah.
He would never say
Yeah.
anything like
yeah,
that.
and that's the thing. But you've seen women that are going through that, where the husband like, what have you done today? And it's like, oh, they have twins and this.
Or they'll take out the trash and they're like,
see, I did
and you're
this.
like, do you want a, I'm like, I just did 1,000 things. You did one? Like, where's my applause?
Oh,
Where's
it's a
my
thank you. Yes, they always got a thank you. That's, like, I'm good for saying
You're like,
thank
you did
you,
one
but,
little
like,
thing.
Come on, dude.
But I love what you said about, it's more than just making the dinner. It's, do I have the ketchup? Do I have the
like
There are
so
so
many
many
things that go
things that
into
the
it.
husbands and men in general just don't think about when we are like, like going through that list. Yeah.
And they talk about, like, really women are physiology, like, we are really made to be able to multitask.
Yeah.
And so, like, we can do that, but they were, like, laying out, like, it's not healthy for us to be doing all these things and have all this mental load and then have to execute it. And so, like, that's the thing is, like, I was like, wow, like, because, Johnny does make dinner, but I was like, he would have no idea that we're out of Chick-fil-A sauce and my kids are going to go bat shat crazy tomorrow when
that's
they get their nuggets, you know?
Or when they do it, like, the host, when he, like, literally, he will go buy them food, and I'm like, what are you getting the kids? And he's like, this and this and this, and I'm like, none of your kids will eat any of that.
Right, yeah.
Like, you know, because in his mind, he's just like,
know.
what's easy? What can I give them? But I'm like, you're wasting your money here.
Yeah.
You just went
Now
to
you're
this
gonna eat
new barbecue, Korean barbecue.
Yeah.
But none of them is going to eat that. Like, right now,
Right.
think about it. We're going back to school, right?
Yeah.
How many, is your husband involved in that wall of going back to school?
No.
Registration, right?
Oh,
It's
that's
on
one
us.
of the other things. It's a
It's
4-day
on us.
process to register your freaking kids for school. And the lady talks about, your husband just shows up in the shower and he's got shampoo, he's got soap, there's always toothpaste. She's like, are you kidding me? They don't know how much we do. So she's made these cards so you can be like, bro, you're in charge. It's like personal hygiene. Like, if I don't have soap next week, I'm gonna be pissed at you. Because, like, I can't do everything, you know?
But it's like with school right now. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I got 3 birthdays in August. School's starting, and all my kids are in uniform, and I'm like, we're gonna go school shopping. And your host is like, okay.
He's like,
Like,
cool, yeah.
You got that?
Yeah.
I know, right? And they have no clue. And then the first day of school, they're like, they look great. It's like, yeah, it's a process of what happened, you know? So I think we are built different than men.
We for sure are.
We are built
And I think,
different.
I mean, I think obviously women, and I'm always team women, but obviously we still respect the male and we love men, but, like, women really, for centuries, have really done so much.
Oh, for sure.
And like I feel like now it's kind of the trend to be like, yeah, I'm not doing all this anymore. And like that's why gender roles are shaking things up and marriages are starting to hit things. But like, at least for me, I came to that point because I feel like I was very traditional. I was raised traditional. Like I remember, and I've read in journals, like my goals and aspirations were to be like to get a career that only worked with being a mom. So like I wanted to be a dental, I like wrote it down. I wanted to be a dental hygienist because it's a good job to be a mom. I can work once a week, you know? Like I was trained and like groomed to do that. And I came into, I love it. I'm still I'm with my kids all the time, you know? But I have all these other passions, and like Johnny's was opposite. I am a male. I am the alpha. I make money.
Yep.
That's my responsibility. I don't emotionally do any other things. I don't physically do anything inside of the house. And like that worked for us for about 10 years. And then I came to a spot where I was like, it just flipped in me. And I was like, this isn't working for me anymore. And it's caused here we are. It's caused a lot. But thankfully he has come around. It's taken a lot. Like he does not like the idea of some of the things that I put on him, but he's come around and he's finding he really is good at filling in emotional
we mold
needs.
as people and spouses and moms and age or
and it's also learned. I think you said it right. So as growing up, you were taught like, you know, to be a man. Like with Yahoo, his mom was the breadwinner most of the time.
Yeah.
And the dad was one that take him to like the sports and stuff like that. And so because of that, I think I've always been appreciative that, you know, there's every now and then he'll make some comments like, you don't need to work. Like like stay at home with the kids. And I'm just like, I'm not working for the money. I'm working for my sanity, because if I'm here, I need it. You know what I mean? I need like my little outlet. It's not because my life don't fulfill me, because I want to remain my identity and teach my kids like, you can go out there and do whatever you want, no matter what label is put on you. Yeah. You can go out there and just do it and conquer the world.
Yeah.
So when I was in college, I graduated as a firefighter in EMT. My first year of college.
Amazing.
And then I realized I want to be a mom. And of course there's moms that are firefighters and EMTs, but I'm like, I know I want to be home with my kids. So I completely changed. So I was never actually had a job in those, but that's what I originally did and realized I would rather be home with. So they, like I said, they change and they morph, and that's okay. But yes, the husband and the wife both have to be okay with movement and change and development and, you know.
So what advice would you tell our audience? Because I don't know if it's me, I've seen it in the inbox. Like, if you are in that, I think like, we're so different, because Brittany loves it. You know what I mean? Like she has, we have to say that there's no shame on that. Like that's awesome. You love being it. We all got to be different. You know what I mean?
Thank you for not shaming me.
No, there's not. That's amazing. I think that's amazing.
You're killing
that's
it.
amazing.
It fulfills you. You do a great job at it.
And I think that's what beautiful what you said. Like
family.
it fulfills you. But like, how do we help those women that it does not fulfill them, and that they feel like they are at home taking the brunt of it all, and they have that husband that's like coming home and like, and I think you've seen that it's just like, oh, you don't have dinner? What did you do all day? Why is the house dirty? Like how do we help women? Like, how do they start that conversation with their partner? Like, what would be our advice on that?
The book Fair Play has like pages of actual like, it literally has
dialogue.
It categorizes your husband. It's like, is your husband? It has these like different names, and it's like, if your husband is I can't remember, like they call him like a lawnmower. This is how you start a conversation with that type of male. If your husband, it literally tells you, and I was like, that's my husband. And so like, I would never approach my husband with this, because he'll get super defensive and like not accept it.
Because husbands are all different. They all feel different. You can't have the same conversation.
So it goes like, it's like, read these 8 examples of like what these husbands do in their roles and responsibilities. Find yours. And then there's a whole chapter on, if you're married to the lawnmower, this is how you start the conversation. This is what you say back to him if he shuts you down. This is how you, this is how you get your partner to play fair play with you. So like the whole book is based around like, in theory, it's like trying to get your husband to come play this card game with you, right? So it's like kind of how she twists it, but she's like, if your husband is this kind of player, like this is how you get him to come to the card table. And it's really good, really good. Yeah. Like you guys have to read it.
It sounds amazing.
I learned a ton of things, and I had already kind of approached that myself, like with Johnny a few years ago, so we already had the ball rolling, but like it wasn't pretty, and I'm like, dang, if I would have been able to read this, I could have came so much more confidently, more prepared, and like sounded more logical about it.
And also, you don't want, and the one thing I want to see, you don't also want the men to feel like they're not valued either.
Right.
I think that's the biggest part, because this time I feel like it's like, you know, because we want to be big, we make them feel small. So we also have to make sure that we're coming in a place of like, we just want to be right here. We just want to be right here. like I'm not wanting to be above you or be your mom, or it just we want to come together and do this together. I think that's the
love that.
biggest thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's on every episode that we talk about marriage in, whether that's about sex or gender roles or boundaries. It always boils down to communication.
Yeah.
Like you and your spouse have to be communicating. You have to be talking about all of these.
But I do feel like
topics.
even if you communicate, because like for years, like I would tell Johnny my feelings. I don't feel this is fair. I do everything in this house, and you come home and just go to bed, and like I'm doing, and like even though I felt like I was communicating honestly, like I feel overwhelmed. I feel resentful. Like no change was happening, and I know there are other women out there who might be married to someone who they're like, I've communicated and I've told him, but he gives zero craps. And so that's when you take the next step. Okay, well, you decide if you want to stay in a marriage like that, or if you put up boundaries and you get some therapy and you start working. And that's what a lot of the stuff we have been doing in therapy is like getting down to like the nitty gritty of like all this stuff. There's a lot to like
because I think women are
decompact.
suffering in silence. Like I think it's like, oh, I've communicated. They're not listening. I've done 1, 2, 3. So now I just deal with it. Like I'm just going through the motion.
Yeah.
And I think instead of going through the motion is reach out like to people. Like you're not alone. Like you know what I mean? And I think whatever works for your home, as long as it works for the both of you. It shouldn't benefit one person.
Right.
And while you're suffering a silence. Like if it's you stay at home and you're happy in it, then good for you. But if you're at home doing all this thing and you are feeling like I'm suffering, then you need to speak up and you need to change it.
And if you speak up and that's not received well, then you have to take the next step of deciding
Therapy or
moving on, you know?
But you shouldn't suffer in silence.
Which is a big
Or a way to address it that
Yeah, like, and that's kind of how what I was like, you know, like, this is a big concept for my husband to just accept when we lived so traditionally. So it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of inner work for him and I, and a lot of like shame cycles and like his, you know, what is he worried about other people thinking? So it's like a lot of work, but Johnny's come a really long way from someone.
Especially when he was raised like that, and then a lot of your marriage was like that. He's like, wait, why?
He knows
Why do we have to?
nothing
Yeah, why do we
different.
need to switch it up? And it's hard. Yeah.
So it's been hard, but he has come a long way, and he's much more helpful now and much more appreciative now that he sees, you know, some of the things that go into the things that he just comes home and there's dinner. Like he didn't know there was 40
I love you said
steps.
about your husband, that he appreciates the things that you've done. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's never made you feel. I love that he's like you doing it, but he also doesn't take advantage of what you
Yes,
said.
I
So
never
I love
feel
that.
I never
love that.
feel less than. I never feel like I have to do it. It just doesn't get done if I don't do it. But he never ever once has made me feel like that, and I've been super.
I love that.
good.
That's one thing I think you said. I was like, well, because a lot of women, they are taken advantage of.
I feel like every time I go on one of my retreats and like husbands come up naturally, right?
Yes.
Like I always go home extra grateful for my husband. Like,
Me too.
You're
I've
my
had
man.
those.
You're the one.
I know, and that's the thing I have to make you realize too. Like with your husband, like, oh, I have things that I don't like about you. But then when you like, you know, then it's like, oh, I'm so appreciative for, you know what I mean? Like you said, Johnny would be a great father, even though there's that 1, 2, 3, but there's that thing that makes you appreciative. Like he comes home and you're like,
Yes.
So I think
And he knows that. He knows he'll come home and like help and
They can't all be perfect like us. Thank you for joining our brave and very long conversation.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell notification so you don't miss our next episode.
Ready for more? Click on the next video for more brave conversation.
Have some brave topics you'd like to discuss? Leave your suggestions below. We'd love to hear from you.
See you next week.
Hey, brave girl, how you do the things that you do?